Let's start with an article summarizing it, because you're going to see, we're going to start with an article summarizing it. I'm just going to draw your attention to the conclusions from the Durham report, because there is no point going through it in detail. It's almost too long to be digestible for those who don't already know about it. Read the Durham report here. We will. We're going to go actually through the thing at the beginning that has all the chapters, because that's basically just the timeline. Let's read how the mainstream media is reporting on this. The Justice Department on Monday released the report by Trump-era Special Counsel John Durham. You got to wait for the spin on this. The man tasked with reviewing the origins of the FBI's investigation into Russian meddling in the 2016 presidential election. They don't even say alleged Russian meddling, considering the report came to the conclusion that the FBI was wildly biased, ignored basic standard protocol, and pursued that which ought never have been pursued. But we'll get there. 4 years after his probe began, Durham concluded the Justice Department and FBI failed to uphold important mission of strict fidelity to the law. Listen to this. Durham concluded that the Justice Department and FBI failed to uphold their important mission of strict fidelity to the law. Do you know what that is? Do you know what that is polite for? They did not follow the law. Some might say that's even a polite version of saying they broke the law. Some people might say the actual election interference, the actual coup, came from an FBI that, quote, failed to uphold their important mission of strict fidelity to the... Yeah, we sort of didn't really follow that important thing called the law. About the events during the 2016 election. He also found senior FBI, quote, senior FBI personnel, quote, displayed a serious lack of analytical rigor toward the information they received, especially information received from politically affiliated persons and entities. You know what that means? They displayed extreme bias, extreme motivated reasoning, extreme prejudice in the manner in which they dealt with things. Especially information received from politically affiliated persons. You know who they might be referring to there and who they are referring to there? People with connections to, I don't know, the DNC. You know, that guy Steele, the Steele dossier, was funded by DNC as opposition research. They funded, the DNC funded, by the way, they mislabeled paying for that also. Just details. The FBI knew it was bunk, knew it was bullshit, knew that it was funded, I presume, by the DNC. It was leaked via Jim Baker to the FBI in a meeting that Jim Baker, counsel for the DNC, had with the FBI, for which he billed the Clinton campaign, but was ultimately acquitted by a jury of his peers in DC. Politically affiliated persons. Let's see if CBS really fleshes out the egregiousness of this in their very short article. He concluded that the FBI relied heavily on investigative leads provided by Trump opponents. Oh, so the FBI relied on lies. The FBI relied on the Steele dossier, which was purported opposition research of Trump, fabricated, funded by the DNC, leaked by the DNC via their attorney to the FBI, who leaked it to Yahoo, who then published it. The FBI then relied on that publication to obtain unlawful FISA warrant renewals of Carter Page so they could spy on the incoming president. Minor stuff. Oh, and then, by the way, and if you got pissed off enough about that to actually head to the Capitol on January 6th to protest, don't worry. They had informants and agents provocateurs over there too to crucify anybody who was down there to protest this stuff. Much of the information disclosed in Durham's... Listen to this. This is the spin of all spins, people. Don't worry. There's nothing new in there. If you're thinking it's a bombshell that shows how the deep state tried to take out a president in real time, don't worry, guys. They already talked about it in 2019. Listen to this. But much of the information disclosed in Durham's report that had already been revealed in 2019 examination conducted by the Justice Department Inspector General into the origins of the FBI's probe into possible ties between the Trump campaign and Russia. Don't worry, it had all been looked into before. That investigation identified several procedural errors, but overall concluded that there was no political bias at the Bureau. That investigation, which investigation are they talking about? This is deliberately confusing to people with a short attention span, not me because I'm paying attention. That investigation, not the one that Durham just concluded, which was much more thorough, much more long-term. The other one, which was done, just done in 2019, that one concluded that there might have been procedural errors, like not following the law. But overall, there was no political bias. Well, here's a spoiler alert. Durham's report, which is much more thorough, over a much longer period of time, concluded they weren't really only procedural errors. They were that little thing called, not following the law. And it was egregiously, grotesquely political bias that motivated the FBI. Though Durham had broader powers than the Justice Department's watchdog, he pursued prosecutions of just 3 people, 2 of whom were acquitted. The third, a former FBI lawyer, pleaded guilty. Look at that. They pleaded guilty, by the way, and Roger Stone put out a pretty on-point tweet about this. Although, there's a way to steelman rebuttal Oliver Stone's tweet, which I will, just because. They pleaded guilty to alleged foreign interference that never occurred. They pleaded guilty to an FBI that did that pesky little thing of not adhering to the strict fidelity of the law. So as the FBI abused of its power through, failing to uphold that important mission of abiding by the law, they managed to eke out some guilty pleas of people who pleaded guilty to just end the misery, to avoid potential jail time, because while the FBI is, not respecting the mission of the law, people are, in fact, getting convicted, potentially. So while they abuse of the law, while they have politically biased motivations, while they neglect to follow through on, basic rigor, while they refuse to follow the law, they eke out a guilty plea, which the mainstream media just will never let anybody forget. Michael Flynn, Roger Stone, there was another guy, I forget his name now. And Roger Stone pleaded guilty to lying to the FBI about Russian interference that never happened. And the lie, at least one of them, from what I understand, was that he lied about having connections to Julian Assange and WikiLeaks that he actually didn't have. So he lied about being more connected than he was, and that was his crime. That's the steelman of the argument. Not that he lied about collusion that didn't exist. He lied about something that, maybe he was just a blowhard and trying to, make as though he had better connections than he did. Who knows? Ultimately, he lied about something immaterial to the investigation in the context of an investigation that found no collusion, no obstruction, I believe it. The 300-page report released 4 years after the probe began can be read here. We're going to go through some of it. Oh, we're not going to go through it here. Let me bring this one out. Yeah, that's just minor details, people. 4 years after it began, and it's atrocious, the report. It's atrocious. Let me see if I had a separate, I think I had a separate PDF so we don't have to go through the NBC website. No, that's Giuliani's lawsuit. Oh, wait until we talk about Giuliani's lawsuit. Here's the probe, people. Here's the report. I'm sorry. Let's just zoom. Okay, now there was a way that I could get rid of that. Good. I got to tell you, Durham's reports or Durham's probes during over the last few years, they were a bit of a letdown. This is not a letdown in substance. It's going to be a letdown in that nobody's going to get prosecuted. You'll see the FBI's response. It's so outrageous. It's like, it's like Idiocracy come to real life. This is kind of not so much of a letdown. It'll be a letdown in that nothing will come of it, except maybe something of an awakening, which is something, important. Let's just read this. Report on matters related to intelligence activities and investigations arising out of the 2016 presidential campaigns. Just see how long. This is short here. This is just the cover letter summary, I believe. The attached report is submitted to the Attorney General pursuant to 28 CFR, which states that, quote, At the conclusion of the special counsel's work, he shall provide the Attorney General a confidential report explaining the prosecution or declination decisions reached by the special counsel Mueller. In addition to the confidential report required by Section 608C, the Attorney General has directed that special counsel, quote, to the maximum extent possible and consistent with the law and the policies and practices of the Department of Justice, shall submit to the Attorney General a final report, yada, 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 yada. Okay, so this is the final report. Boring. Okay, we note that the class, this is boring. There's nothing in here that we care about. Okay, it's a classified. Finally, we want to thank you and your office for permitting our inquiry to proceed independently and without interference, as you assured the members of the Senate Judiciary Committee would be the case during your confirmation hearings to become Attorney General of the United States. Now let's just go ahead and, never speak of this again. The timeline is detailed in the, not the table of contents is the word I'm looking for. Okay. You go through their special counsel's investigations. I'm just going to highlight, under these headers, the most amazing stuff. Applicable laws, FBI policies. We don't really care about that. FBI's assessment and investigation of counterintelligence matters. All right, do we want to go for this? The Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. So I presume they go through, not I presume, they go through, what should be the FBI's MO or how they operate. They get into the FISA part. None of this should be a surprise to anybody. You all remember Kleinsmith, or was it Kleinsmith or Kleinfeld? Kevin Kleinsmith. I always get mixed up between Sean Penn's character in Carlitos Way. It's Kleinsmith, Kevin Kleinsmith, the FBI lawyer who falsified the evidence in the context of the investigation spying on Carter Page. Falsified evidence. It's not, and it wasn't just a deletion from an email that confirmed that Carter Page was an intelligence asset. Remember, they're going after Carter Page so they can basically, I don't remember what the word is, two-step spy on Trump. They want to spy on the Trump campaign. Back it up a little bit further. Remember when Trump said that his offices were wiretapped and everyone laughed at him? You crazy conspiracy theorists. They don't even wiretap anymore. Well, it turns out Trump was right in concept, but used a term that might be antiquated because there are no wires anymore. There are no landline. Nobody taps wires. Trump was spied on. How did they spy on Trump? Through Carter Page. How'd they spy on Carter Page? They said Carter Page, who was, he had a role in Trump's interim campaign party presidency. They said Carter Page was having bizarre meetings with Russian assets or Russian individuals that were bizarre. They were bizarre because Kleinsmith, in the evidence that was submitted to the FISA courts to obtain and renew secret spy warrants on Carter Page, they altered evidence to say that Carter Page was not an intelligence asset, which he was, which would have meant that it would not have been abnormal for Carter Page, an intelligence asset, to be meeting with Russian individuals. Kleinsmith deleted from communications to which he was not a party intelligence confirming that Carter Page was an asset. Didn't just delete it, specified that Carter Page was not an asset. Submitted this to a secret FISA court through which they got the initial spy warrant and 3 or 4 subsequent renewals through which they used those means to spy on Donald Trump. The shit hit the fan when people discovered that there was falsified evidence that was submitted to a FISA court. What happened to that lawyer? What happened to Kleinsmith? I mean, a slap on the wrist would have even been more severe. He got a back massage. He got retroactive suspension of his license, no jail time, and a suspension, but he was on parental leave. I didn't mean it like that at all. I took parental as well when my kid was born, and people made that joke. But he took leave because he had a kid. Nothing happened to Kleinsmith, and I believe he's now, unless I'm mistaken, and the chat can correct me, that he's back to being a member of the bar. So that's the FISA stuff. Let's bring this back up here. No. Let's bring this back up here. That's the FISA stuff. We're going to get to this. It's detailed in there, and if anybody didn't know, required findings. So let's hear. We got in the FISA section. Let's keep going down here. Background facts of prosecution decisions. The Crossfire hurricane investigation. evidence of predisposition to investigate Trump. That little thing called, you remember, like, we're not going to go through it here because it's 300 pages long and it's probably a lot of redundant stuff. You remember the Stroke, Peter Stroke, having these text messages with his lover, Lisa Page, I think that's her name, about talking about their insurance policy to go after Trump? I hear a child crying in the other room. You remember that little thing, the FBI talking about they have to save the world from Trump. They've got an insurance policy for a Trump presidency. Oh, yeah. The lack of intelligence information supporting the premise of Crossfire Hurricane. Crossfire Hurricane was the investigation into Trump having ties to the Russian Alpha Bank, going to a hotel in Russia, having snooky time with hookers and pissing on beds. The Steele dossier served as the basis for all this, was fabricated by an operative that was paid for by the Democrat Party. Let's hear. Allegations involving Clinton Foundation, investigative referrals to possible Clinton campaign plan, factual background. Oh my goodness. Let's go to page 80. Let's just go to some of this. The Yahoo News article, page 118. Christopher Steele, FBI confidential human source. This is Christopher Steele, the guy who drafted the Steele dossier, paid for by the Clinton campaign. Oh, let's just go take a random gander here. It's got to be page 118 and not. Okay, this document's going to be freezing up. Ah, cripe. Is the whole thing freezing up, or is it just this document? I think the website. So many people are looking at this document. It's crashing the website. Okay, here. Let's just go down here. 92. This might get swiftly too annoying. I don't know what page we're on. The FBI thus failed to act. Oh, no. Let's try this again. This is page 97. Let's just read this. The FBI thus failed to act on what should have been, when combined with other incontrovertible facts, a clear warning sign that the FBI might then be the target of an effort to manipulate or influence the law enforcement process for political purposes during the 2016 presidential election. Indeed, the CIA Director Brennan and other intelligence officials recognized the significance of the intelligence by expeditiously briefing it to the president, vice president, the director of the national intelligence. Whether or not the Clinton plan intelligence was based on reliable or unreliable information, or was ultimately true or false, it should have been prompted FBI personnel to immediately undertake an analysis of the information, to act with far greater care and caution when receiving, analyzing, and relying upon materials of partisan origins, such as the Steele reports and the Alpha Bank allegations, all of which were bunk. The FBI also should have disseminated the Clinton plan intelligence more widely among those responsible for the Crossfire Hurricane investigation, so they could effectively incorporate it into their analysis of decision-making and their representations to the Office of the OI, Office of Official Investigator, attorneys, and ultimately the FISC. I think that's the FISA courts, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Courts. Whether these failures by U.S. officials amounted to criminal acts, however, is a different question. In order for the above-described facts to give rise to criminal liability under federal civil rights statutes, the office would need to, for example, identify one or more persons who knew the Clinton campaign intended to falsely accuse its opponent with specific information or allegations. 2, intentionally disregard a particular civil right of a particular person, such as the right to be free of searches or seizures. I don't know, Carter Page, maybe? Hold on, just have to do something else. And 3, then intentionally aided that effort by taking investigative steps based on those allegations while knowing they were false. In order to prove criminal violation of the false statements and or obstruction statutes by a government official, the office would need to prove that the official willfully and intentionally failed to inform the courts, or caused another to fail to inform the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Courts of the Clinton plan intelligence in order to conceal that information from the court. You think they can't do that? They got a lawyer falsifying information to continue an investigation and spying on Carter Page. Similarly, to prove a criminal violation of the perjury statutes, the office would need to prove, among other things, that the official made a false statement to the court with knowledge of its falsity rather than a result of confusion, mistake, or faulty memory. Oh, and what was Kleinsmith's excuse for having materially altered evidence and then submitted it? I thought it was true and I did it. I thought he was. I thought he wasn't a known asset. I deleted the words that said he was, put in the words that said he wasn't, and mi scusi, it's my first day. Can you believe what we're writing? What we're reading? It's absolutely atrocious. In sum, the government's handling of the Clinton plan intelligence may have amounted to a significant intelligence failure and a troubling instance in which confirmation bias and a tunnel vision pursuit. We always say, like in law, when a judge wants to be polite to a lawyer while spanking them judicially, this is how they talk. I mean, I'd have to double check to see if it was in Durham. It would not be within Durham's purview, or I don't know if it was within his authority to recommend criminal prosecution of members of the FBI who partook in this. I'll double check that. And we're going to discuss this in greater detail next Sunday with Barnes. In any case, vivabarneslaw.locals.com. Viva Barnes Law for the People, which you can find on podcast at Podbean, Stitch, and all other things. This is Durham's way of basically saying, you guys didn't just fuck up. I mean, this is borderline criminal. And borderline only to be polite. And wait until you see the FBI's response. Their tunnel vision. You had tunnel vision. It may have caused government personnel to fail to appreciate the extent to which uncorroborated reporting funded by an opposing political campaign was intended to influence rather than inform the FBI. Oh no, they didn't know that. They all knew it. They were all in on the same scheme. The FBI didn't know that the Clinton campaign was using them. Bullshit. The FBI was using the media to run the story so the FBI could then rely on it. We'll get to that at page 118. Oh, no, the FBI didn't know that the Clinton campaign might have been using them to launder disinformation. Oh, no. The FBI is like, it's the most, they had no idea. It's their first day. It did not, all things considered, however, amount to a provable criminal offense. Oh, okay, that's very nice. Then we talked about the Carter page FISA applications. Let's just get to the page 118. My goodness, it's either my internet is slow or the government justice.gov website is receiving more interest than it's used to. Let's go to page 118, just to Yahoo. They're all, it's the definition of fascism, okay, people? You have a political party working with intelligence, a politically weaponized intelligence, who's working with the media, all of whom are working together to launder disinformation so they can actually prosecute their political adversaries and actually interfere with elections, meaningfully interfere with elections. Page 118, the September 23, 2016 Yahoo News article. On September 23, 2016, Michael Isikoff published his article in Yahoo News titled, U.S. Intel Officials Probe Ties Between Trump Advisor and Kremlin. The article detailed Carter Page's alleged meetings in July 2016 with Igor Sechin, chairman of Russia Energy Conglomerate, and Igor Devyakin, a senior official in the Russian presidential administration. The article contained information that was nearly identical to the Steele report. Oh, do you know why? Because it was born out of the Clinton campaign lawyer leaking that to the FBI, that leaked it to Yahoo News, that then published it based on sources. Oh, it's such an amazing thing. How could that be the case? The information in the article allegedly came from a, quote, well-placed Western intelligence source and had been confirmed by a, quote, senior U.S. law enforcement official. Lies, lies, lies. Which U.S. official confirmed it? Was it the same 51 who signed the letter confirming that the Hunter Biden laptop story was Russian disinformation? Who was it? Let me see if we answer this question here. A review of communications between and amongst Crossfire Hurricane personnel revealed that senior investigators, including Case Agent 1 and Supervisory Special Agent 1, believed the, quote, Western intelligence source, end quote, was Steele. Oh, who paid him? Who paid him? Further, a review of communications also revealed that members of the investigative team expressed disappointment that Steele had provided the information to the media, believing justifiably that such an action would put the Page FISA application in jeopardy. As discussed in more detail below, until late in the process, several drafts of the Page FISA application contained a footnote that explicitly attributed the information in the Yahoo News article to Steele. Do you know who didn't bring that footnote up to the judge? Oh my goodness. And then it goes on, but it goes on forever. But actually what I want to do is go back to the table of contents, because it's almost more, it's okay. So we got Danchenko. We talked with Danchenko a lot, but we can the FBI's failure to investigate Charles Dolan's role as a possible source for the Steele reports. And then we get into the end here. Oh, my dog is pooping on the floor. FBI's failure to investigate Dolan. CH, we're at item H, page 191. Meetings with Papadopoulos, Page, and a third campaign about the Yahoo News article. Crossfire Hurricane investigators submit the initial FISA application on October 21, 2016. Yada, yada, yada. Alpha Bank. Hold on. Punch. Hey, don't do that. All right, we're going to go to the conclusions. In fact, we're going to bring this window down, bring it out, and bring the conclusions before I go to the chat. It goes on and on, but none of it will be radically new for anyone on this channel. And here we go. The bottom line of Durham's report, by the way. So I highlighted the Yahoo News article. Let's just get to the end. We'll skip to the end. Page 303, people. Bias or improper motivation. I mean, you could read through the entire article. It's all stuff that we've talked about throughout the last 3 or 4 years, and it's not news to anybody who is paying attention. Bias or improper motivation. This is the findings of Durham. Many people were disappointed with Durham, and many people still will be, because they're going to say, good, you got a nice report and nothing's going to happen. The OIG review of Crossfire Hurricane says that we did not find document or testimonial evidence that political bias or improper motivation influenced the FBI's decision to seek the FISA authority on Carter Page. It also says that while we did not find documentary or testimonial evidence of intentional misconduct on the part of the FBI personnel, we did not receive satisfactory explanation for the errors or problems we identified. Let me make this a little bigger here. In this report, we have referred to the possible impact of, quote, confirmation bias. I mean, confirmation bias sometimes will have the effect of, like, causing people to prefer certain conclusions versus another in studies, in research. We're talking about criminal law enforcement, the FBI, and they're calling it confirmation bias when it's politically weaponized intelligence that sought to interfere and influence American elections in a way that makes January 6th look like child's play. Confirmation bias was widely understood as a phenomenon describing how information is processed by individuals and groups. It stands for the general proposition that there is a common human tendency, mostly unintentional, bullshit, for people to accept information and evidence that is consistent with what they already believe to be true. Skipping the rest of this verbal diarrhea. Throughout the duration of Crossfire Hurricane, facts and circumstances that were inconsistent with the premise that Trump and/or persons associated with the Trump campaign were involved in a collusive or conspiratorial relationship with the Russian government were ignored or simply assessed away. Well, that's how you want the most powerful intelligence agencies and crime investigation agencies to work. Let's just ignore it. Indeed, as set forth in certain sections, from before the opening of Crossfire Hurricane, some of those most directly involved in the subsequent investigation had one, expressed their open disdain for Trump, stroke et al. 2, asked about whether they would open an investigation on Trump, a little bit of a variation on 1. And 3, asserted that they would prevent Trump from becoming president. That's not confirmation bias, Durham. I appreciate you have to be polite. That is political corruption of the highest order. This dog is... That is political corruption of the highest order. That is borderline, if not overt, coup material. As discussed throughout this report, our investigation revealed that the stated basis for opening a full investigation, quote, to determine whether individuals associated with the Trump campaign were writing and or coordinating activities with the government of Russia was seriously flawed. Oh, I'm sorry. we're going to get to the distinction between a full investigation and a preliminary investigation. And the liars at MSNBC, which we're going to see in a second, they want you to believe the only mistake the FBI made here was opening a full investigation and not just a preliminary investigation. Oh, I'm sorry. You opened a full investigation to bullshit charges that were based on nothing but lies, that were sponsored, paid for by the political adversary who was using you to then politically persecute the political adversary after having been duly elected and maybe a little bit before. FBI's failure to critically analyze information that ran counter to the narrative of Trump-Russia collusive relationship exhibited throughout the Crossfire hurricane is extremely troublesome. Let's keep going, people. It gets worse. Can I see this one here? Oh, yeah, here we go. Let's just get some examples. There was a complete lack of information from the intelligence community that corroborated the hypothesis upon which Crossfire hurricane investigation was predicated. A complete lack of information that led to 3 years of a witch hunt undermining the duly elected president. It could have led to a civil war in some sense, maybe not like the 1812 Civil War. 1872. Holy crap! I'm sorry, I might have just inverted numbers. It was 1876. 1872. Damn it! Let me just see here. Let me just check my notes. It had to have been 1872, I think. What else? The FBI generally ignored significant exculpatory information provided by Carter Page, George Papadopoulos, and Trump's senior policy advisor, during recorded conversations. Oh, what's that? They ignored exculpatory evidence? Oh, I'm sorry. That's a civil rights violation. Last time I checked, in my limited understanding as a Quebec-trained attorney, FBI failed to pursue investigative leads that were inconsistent with their theory of the case, i.e. Page's recorded denials of having any relationship with Paul Manafort, yada, yada. FBI failed to take Page up on a written offer he made to Director Comey to be interviewed about allegations in Michael Iskoff's Yahoo News article. Okay, they get better. Crossfire hurricane investigators did not even ask Steele about his role in providing information to Michael Isikoff as contained in the Yahoo News article, information that essentially accused Carter Page of colluding with the Russians. And thereafter, the same investigators demonstrated a willingness to contort the plain language of the article to suggest it was not Steele, but Steele's employers who had given the information to Isikoff. Here's the best one, I think. The FBI ignored the fact that at no time before, during, or after Crossfire hurricane were investigators able to corroborate a single substantive allegation in the Steele dossier reporting. Just that little thing. At no point in time could they corroborate any one allegation in that report. And you know why? It was lies funded by, paid for, mandated by the Clinton campaign, leaked to the FBI by the Clinton campaign lawyer. There was a complete failure on the part of the FBI to even examine, never mind resolve, the serious counter-espionage issues surrounding Steele's primary subsource, Igor Danchenko. There was more. I mean, it's just in your face. Here we go. In your face. No, we already did that one. Did I miss one here? Okay, so I got that. Just a little confirmation bias, people. It's not a coup. It's confirmation bias. The Crossfire hurricane investigators essentially ignored information they had received as early as October 2016 regarding Charles Dolan, a longtime Democratic operative with ties to the Clintons, who also possessed significant ties to Russian government figures who would appear in the Steele reporting and never interviewed him. Just that minor thing of actually never interviewing the people with actual ties to foreign Russian influencers, people. The Crossfire hurricane investigators provided only partial and in some instances misleading information to the department attorneys working on the FISA applications while withholding other highly relevant information from those attorneys and the FISC that might cast real doubt on the probable cause assertions. Just that's all that happened, people. It's just a little bit of confirmation bias. It's a coup. It was a coup. It's still going on. And by the way, the very same people that planned, orchestrated, and carried out this coup and political persecution, they're the same ones who, were involved in the Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping plot, the alleged Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping plot. They're the same ones who were involved in January 6th. Bear in mind, people, Gretchen Whitmer, you had more FBI agents and informants than defendants. January 6th, you had FBI agents and informants infiltrating the Oath Keepers in advance of January 6th. The Proud Boys, in advance of January 6th. It was this infiltration that allowed a jury of their peers to come to convictions of, seditious conspiracy. They were infiltrating these terroristic militias well in advance of January 6th, and yet dropped the ball on January 6th, had no idea it was coming, despite having infiltrated, allegedly, these militias. But hold on, we got to get here. Don't spoil the punchline, people. Don't spoil the punchline. This is the actual response from the FBI. I mean, I thought it was a joke. I'm not joking. I thought it was a joke when I saw this. Don't read the person's tweet. You don't want to spoil the surprise here. This is the actual response from the actual FBI today. Okay, this dog is driving me crazy. Let me just see something here. Yeah, she's driving me crazy. Hold on. Oh my gosh, I must pull my computer over. Get out. Oh, sorry. I wanna be able to read this properly with proper inflection without being distracted by Pudge the paralyzed puggle who's dragging stuff across the floor that nobody needs to see. FBI. The conduct in 2016 and 2017 that Special Counsel Durham examined was the reason that current FBI leadership already implemented dozens of corrective actions, which have now been in place for some time. Had those reforms been in place in 2016, the missteps, I mean, Durham was being forgiving enough by calling it confirmation bias, which is, that's like, I can't even think of an analogy here. They call it missteps. Had those reforms been in place in 2016, the missteps identified in the report could have been prevented. Not would have been prevented. It could have been. This report reinforces the importance of ensuring the FBI continues to do its work with the rigor, objectivity, and professionalism the American people deserve and rightly expect. This report reinforces the importance of ensuring the FBI continues to do its work with the rigor. You haven't been doing it with that rigor. The whole report concludes in 2016, you didn't do it with rigor, objectivity, and professionalism. You did it in a confirmationally biased manner, ignoring exculpatory evidence, not corroborating any evidence, ignoring, falsify. Oh no, but had you. We acknowledge we did what Durham says we did. Since then, we've put in protocols. So had that been in place back then, surely it wouldn't have been a problem. Because it's the first time the FBI has ever done anything bad. It's the first time the FBI, it's not like they were involved in, I don't want to overstep my knowledge here. It's not like they were involved in dealing drugs in inner cities, smuggling guns to cartels. It's not like they were involved in any of that stuff in the past. It's not like the government had ever done things like, experimented on its own citizens, kidnapped homeless people and the mentally ill to administer drugs to them in an effort to, pursue mind control objectives so they could be used against the Ruskies. It's not like the FBI has ever done anything bad before 2016, and it'll never happen again. Me Scoozy, too bad, so sad. Forget about the 3 years of civil unrest that the FBI inspired. That was actually their answer. It's an admission of wrongdoing in no uncertain terms. We did it. We've since put in protocols that would prevent us from, potentially violating civil rights. It might not have happened had we had then in place what we have in place now, but it gets even worse. That is, as far as I'm concerned, nothing more than an admission of actual wrongdoing and possible criminality. While the FBI sits there and admits that they did it, you've got your MSNBC, MSM propagandists defending the FBI. You can't make this stuff up, to quote Mark Robert, people. You can't make this stuff up. How do I get out of this? Okay, close this. You can't make this stuff up. This is, okay, first of all, before we get into it, who's Barb McQuaid? Wife, mom, okay, fine. University of Michigan Law, okay, fine. So she's a lawyer. She's got to be a professional. I mean, after all, the FBI are professionals too. They surely wouldn't be violating civil rights because of confirmation bias, ignoring exculpatory evidence, falsifying evidence. I mean, it's the FBI. Had we had in protocols that are law, well, if we had only had a protocol that said, you know, FBI attorneys can't falsify documents to submit to a court, then it wouldn't have happened. Probably, maybe, who knows? Fingers crossed. Law professor, U.S. attorney. I don't know what these things are. MSNBC legal analyst. Oh, well, there we go, sir. Oh, author of the forthcoming book, Attack from Within, How Disinformation is Sabotaging America. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've just read, we didn't read through the entire report, nor do we have to, but we've read through, you know, a substantial, or the substantive part of it. Let's hear how Barb McQuaid, MSNBC legal analyst, spins it. One, how long does this bloody thread of Twitter diarrhea go on for? 20? Okay, we might not get all the way down. I have a short attention span. Durham report is in. Don't worry, people. It's a nothing burger. After 4 years, review of 1 million documents, 490 interviews, his conclusion is that the FBI should have opened a preliminary investigation instead of a full investigation in 2016. Can you believe that someone actually tries to lie to people so badly? His conclusion was that they should have opened a preliminary investigation, which subtly suggests sufficient guilt to open a preliminary investigation instead of a full investigation. Thread. The only difference between full investigation and preliminary investigation is the duration and the authorities that may be used. This is hair-splitting quibble, and one on which the FBI routinely disagree. Oh, it's a hair-splitting quibble. Durham also minimizes the reasons FBI was alarmed enough to open a full investigation on information. He doesn't minimize it. You pathological liar. He doesn't minimize it. He says they had no basis. They couldn't corroborate one shred, one iota of the evidence upon which they relied to open their full investigation. And it wouldn't have been different from the preliminary investigation, except for maybe the damage would have been less. But you expect a politically motivated, confirmation biased, weaponized FBI is somehow going to conduct a preliminary investigation with more integrity than a full investigation? I mean, they just would have taken the preliminary investigation and used it as an excuse to get to a full investigation. The lies and the audacity to urinate in your face and tell you it's raining. According to Orses, Papadopoulos said Trump team had received some kind of suggestion from Russia that it could assist this process. This is when you just get into the confuse and conquer. Number one, is a lie. Bold-faced lie, but anybody who doesn't read the report will not know. Number two is a hair-splitting over the lie. Oh, yeah. The only conclusion was that they should have gone to a preliminary investigation, not a full investigation. Bullshit lie. Oh, the difference between and let me just like add some detail to the first lie, which is how you know you're being lied to. This is like a kid offering too much detail. Oh, yeah, I went to the movie. I went to school, and the teacher got mad at me because my homework was late. When the kid actually just, played hooky and went to a movie theater. Oh, the only difference between the FL and PL, yada, yada. Durham also minimizes another lie, the reasons why the FBI was alarmed enough. And then we're just going to get into like a thread of diarrhea. And by the way, a thread of diarrhea that attempts to reestablish facts that Durham reviewed and came to the conclusion were bogus. Trump campaign members also had ties to Russia. Oh, Mike Flynn was paid $445,000 Russia Today. What part of not one allegation in the Steele dossier was substantiated? Did you not understand, McQuaid? Carter Page had been meeting with Russian intel officers. It now appears that he was unaware that they were trying to recruit him. What part of he was a known asset to intelligence did you not understand, McQuaid? We now know the FBI was unable to corroborate the Steele dossier, which, you know why? Because it was bunk. It was bunk. These are lies. This is MSNBC legal analysts, which contained explosive details about Russian compromat on Trump. That's 2020 hindsight. No, it wasn't. It was one-on-one foresight. Nothing could be corroborated in that Democrat National Committee, Hillary Clinton campaign funded bullshit dossier. Nothing could be corroborated in it. And it was farcical on its face for anybody paying attention at the time. In fact, some aspects of the Steele dossier were confirmed by Mueller and the DNI. Oh, I mean, this is like, okay, Sorry, I don't think you read the report, McQuaid. In addition to criticizing the FBI for opening the full investigation instead of the preliminary investigation, Durham also ignores other facts and helps advance the narrative that the Russia investigation was a hoax. They're clinging to it. They're still clinging to it. It's absolutely stunning. The only winner here is Russia, which succeeded in its mission to get its favorable candidate elected. So, I mean, it's farcical. You have Barb McQuaid defending the FBI and saying they did nothing wrong when the FBI is apologizing for the wrong it did. The FBI did nothing wrong. FBI, oh yeah, we did something wrong, and had we had protocol in place that we have in place now, then it might not have happened. It's a bloody joke. It would be a bloody joke if it weren't so damn devastatingly destructive.